Lucchetta's narrow miss in Season 23 was finally avenged. Coming out on top, the Italian beat Burns to the title by sealing the deal at Hockenheim. Now that the points have reset, though, they face off again. Who will be victorious this time? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 1 of the Absolute Beginners League Formula Neagle, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Season 25 kicks off at Suzuka, so why don't we head down to our track guide to learn a little bit more about it. Welcome to Suzuka Circuit, perhaps most famous for its hosting of the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix for much of the event's history. This track sees all sorts of racing besides that. In fact, this place began as a test track for Honda, but later proved to be a driver and fan favorite for competitive motorsports as well. The full layout of the Grand Prix course steals the show, but there's actually 5 different versions that can be run on iRacing. With their lap lengths ranging from just over 2 kilometers to nearly 6 kilometers, plenty of different types of cars can suit the track. GT racing and lower-level open-wheelers are quite popular, but motorcycles are also a staple here. Some of the corners have become world-renowned over the years. The S's are often cited as one of the great tests of a driver's technical prowess. Then, of course, there's Degner's 1 and 2, which provide very little runoff considering their fast and narrow entry. Later on, the long backstretch leads up to the notorious 130R, which is blindingly fast. The Casio Triangle offers one last chance at an overtake if you're brave, but has been the scene of many drivers clattering into one another over the years. F1 fans will be quick to cite the infamous coming together here between Senna and Prost. However, real-life visitors will find it's more than the racing that provides some viewing pleasures. The unique ways in which the Japanese fans celebrate their favorite cars and drivers certainly capture your attention. But it's no wonder they're such fanatics, because who wouldn't be with one of the world's greatest tracks right in your backyard? Well, DJ, for a long time in the real world, this was the season finale for Formula One, but we're kicking it off instead here at ABL.
We are indeed, Joe, and it's going to be a very difficult track for these drivers in the Skip Barber machines. Now, one of the reasons why Formula One loves this track so much is with the high downforce, they're really able to take a lot of these corners relatively flat out, specifically looking at like the S's and coming up through Dunlop and the Degner curves. But with the reduced downforce of these skippies, it's going to be a little bit more tricky. You're really going to have to watch out for just lifting and trying to find the perfect balance. Now, that said, there are going to be some good overtaking opportunities that we're going to see. Obviously, we always talk about the run down into the hairpin as being a good one, and I think we may see a little bit of slipstreaming going into the first corner. Everybody's going to have to be careful, though. That run that we always like to look at, going through 130R and down into the Casio Triangle, even with these narrow cars, that's only about a car's width that you can fit through there. But if you're able to get a good draft, I think you may see a little bit of fun going down into that final set of corners.
Well, let's take a look at the championship, though, before we get to the qualifying, which has just started. Lucchetta came out the victor over David Burns, but we don't see Manuel here yet today. So we'll see if he tries to defend his crown. If he misses the first race, it'll be very difficult to do so. Yonk rounded out the top 3 with a tie between Dancy and Sauer, and Brain rounded out those top 5 in the points. What about the Formula 2 championship?
Well, Joe, remember this F2 championship is for drivers with a little bit lower of an I rating, and with there, Ludwig Sauer was able to take the victory over Eric Lukl. Christopher Crook coming in third, holding off a very, very close battle with Peter Stipik and Christopher Giros.
And for the team's championship in this series, it was 2 stupid dogs who really ran away with things. But look at how close it was for second place. 2 points between Video Brouwers and Kombacht. And then you have to jump down to a very narrow battle for fourth between NHR and Evolve, with NHR coming out 1 point ahead in the end. What about the race details, DJ?
Well, Joe, for viewers who have not checked in on one of these ABL Formula Neagle series, this is a relatively short season, only 5 rounds, this being the first round, and there is no drop week. As we mentioned, we are racing the Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars, and we'll be doing it in a 40-minute race. Now, there is an open setup, so you're able to tweak and tune what you want, but there's not a whole lot of setup changes to make in this car, so it's not overly complicated. The only caveat to that being is there is a 51% fuel limit that will force drivers to make a pit stop over the course of the race. And a little bit different from what we see a lot of times, we're in for a standing start here today, Joe.
Indeed. And right now in the qualifying, Sauer holds the provisional pole over David Burns by about a tenth, but the two of them are in the same draft train, which we're seeing a lot of them doing out here. You talked about a bit in the track description there, DJ. So I suspect these last 10 minutes here in the qualifying are going to see a lot more of this, but it takes a long time to get around here.
Yeah, it certainly does. The first times we're seeing about 2.5 minutes, and that is a little indicative of these underpowered skippies. Remember, these are really kind of a driver's car. They're a trainer car, and so they're slower, lower on downforce, and really punish errors as much as possible. But you can see this big draft train developing ahead of Sauer. Now, because these cars are slower, that means that there's more time that you're spent on the throttle, and the draft is going to be a little bit more important than we see in other cars around here. So that could benefit us, and it maybe lead to some good overtaking over the course of the race.
I see a number of drivers that have yet to set a time. A few off tracks may have cost them their first lap. Anderson, who just crossed among them. So did Smet. We're continuing to follow Burns here up at the front of this train through the Spoon Curve with Lukel just behind him. Lukel was good enough for 5th that last time through. Seeing if we got anybody else ahead of them. And it looks like no, these are the next one. They're going to be crossing the line. So we're only going to see 3, maybe 4 laps for much of the drivers. Burns going to allow Lukel through using that slingshot here. Coming up to 130R, but a big slide for Lukel will force Burns to have to look around the outside. And the last thing you want to be doing on a qualifying lap is defending.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where it's going to get tricky in 130R. Not the best thing in the world there for these drivers. Wouldn't be surprised if those leading two do have a little bit of a slower time here, but they're going to cross over. Let's see. Ooh, proving me wrong. Lukel able to bump his way up to 4th. Youst Junk going fastest and just pipping out David Burns to that provisional pole.
Sauer down to 6th after briefly holding the top spot. So what about the next few groups coming through, seeing if anybody can use that slipstream a little bit more as we watch this front group going through the S's. This is Mann right now coming across, and looks like that lap time unfortunately didn't count as Hop goes a little bit faster. Bell is off pace, unfortunately. So Lodin is up next. He set a time on his first lap. And this looks competitive, but he unfortunately had that time deleted.
Yeah, he did. Just a quick note on Bell. I think he's got some front wing damage on that car potentially. But here comes Bernardi coming across the line. Let's see if he's able to improve by about 0.5 of a second. That'll bump him up to 10th place.
One of our commentators, Ryan Walker, manages to go into 9th. We now look at Anderson up next through 130R. His first time was taken away from him. Following him, it'll be Smet once again. Both of them still looking to try and put one on the board here today so that they can not have to start from the back of the field. 6 minutes left now on the clock as we watch him round the final corner. Anderson, another one that did not count. Smet, though, does. 27.9, that'll slide him into 16th.
Here comes Joe Turner McMullen trying to improve on a 228. If that sticks, it does. That's going to move him up to 16th place. Now, those drivers that you were watching, they're going to have a disadvantage. They're not going to have the benefit of the draft. Watching here, though, is that's Lukel and Burns trading positions once again. Burns sliding back into the draft. That's Yonk behind him, getting ahead of Vincent Bream with Wojciech Podacek just sitting back and taking advantage of all of the draft of these cars in front.
That is not Burns leading. That is Lucal now, who still sits in 5th position, as Burns almost looks like he's trying for an over-under, give himself that little bit more speed. And it might actually help as he starts to creep up on him. Burns does go faster to 24.5. It'll get him into 2nd place. Lucal into 3rd, but Yonk still leads as he improves to a 23.9.
Does indeed. Judging by where they're coming across the line, I think they'll have maybe 2 more laps to try to put something in. Ooh, Josh Brain jumping his way up to 3rd. Steve Durr coming into 9th. Benjamin Harris finally able to put a time on the board in 17th. Let's see what Wilford has. Wilford's able to jump his way into 10th.
And with another try at things, a 28 flat will unfortunately put him in 21st. So a few more drivers now coming through, including Lodin, who we saw earlier. The Scandinavian is just coming out of the final turn at 29 flat. Last time is only good enough for 22nd. This time, 29.4. He was off the pace. Michael Bell, a 38.4. And he is 14 seconds off the pace. He must have had a spin both times.
Yeah, very much so. That's not exactly great. Ryan Walker there coming across the line. He's able to improve and bump his way up to the 10th position right now. Waiting for a couple more drivers to come across as we continue to tick down here. Looks like next up is going to be Nicholas Anderson as we watch him navigate out through 130R.
They are having to deal with rising temperatures, but these tires do take a bit to warm up. So not surprised to see the times continue to tumble. You can see it is only 26 Celsius, so about 78 Fahrenheit. Not terribly hot to start things off so early in the morning. Anderson, though, is not doing so hot on his times, which none have been set, while Smet knocks it down to a 27.6.
Knocks it down to a 27.6, but that's not going to be an bump him up anywhere around. Focus back on this leading pack, which is just looking like an absolute swarm of bees. That's Burns in front. That looks like it's Yonk trying to make the move on Lucal. He's not going to do anything. So Burns cutting the big hole in the air for these other 4 drivers behind.
Burns only 1 position up from low, and we got an accident. That might be qualifying over for those 2. That's Yonk and I think Brame, who unfortunately fell victim to that. Well, narrowing it down to 3 might actually help these few. And for Burns, not pole, he's within a 10th, as behind him Lucal not able to improve, Potacek neither.
Indeed, but this will now open it up. They'll have 2 laps to go. Watching the last couple come across the line, Dancy looks like he's unable to improve. Waiting to see if any of these drivers are able to get anything good. Benjamin Harris here comes to the line, off by his best time by about 0.4 of a second. A little bit of an improvement there from Wilford and Groulet, which will bump him up to 11th.
Yeah, nice there from Christian. And after Rob Hop, we are back to Lodane again. Anderson's the only one yet to set a time in our 24-car field. He'll be up pretty soon. I love the crash test dummy themed helmet, though, here that we've got from class. And hopefully it doesn't prove prophetic, but it has helped him get a 27.6 on the board, which is unfortunately 9 1,000ths away from improving his position.
There goes Ryan Walker again, pumping his way up into the top 10. Michael Bell there comes in, able to improve his time, but it's not going to move him up the board. Now we're going to focus back here on the number 3. This is Nicholas Anderson. Remember, yet to set a time. He's the only driver who has not been able to complete a clean lap around here at Suzuka.
This time he gets 1 more try to make it stick through the Casio triangle. What kind of pace does he in fact have? The pace looks good from the timing sheet, but will it be enough to get him somewhere? 27.7, that one counts. That'll put him into 22nd. That's 2 positions up. That's at least worthwhile.
Yeah, Neil Smet there having a time that was deleted, so he's going to stay in 20th for now. Looking to see back to that former big group of cars. Now, this is Burns out front. This is going to be really interesting. He's been in clean air this entire time, so this will be a pretty good indicator of what his overall pace is.
Yonk not out there to try and compete since he was involved in that incident last time through. So if Burns is finding more pace, the 13 is essentially a sitting duck. He'll get one last flyer after this. It is a 23.994. He is ahead by 0.02 of a second, and he's going to park it.
Oi, 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 that's a bit of a gauntlet thrown down to Just Jonk. Watching now as the other drivers come to the line to see if anybody else has got some time. That's Eric Lukal. He's going to be hoping for something. Josh Brain unable to improve his time. He'll stay in fourth for the moment. Seeing Sauer and Durr coming into the pits. Wilfred there able to improve by about 0.4 of a second, and that'll bump him up 2 places.
Drivers abandoning these last laps, not happy with what they're seeing. Mann is coming across with a 27.6 up to 22nd position because of that. Lodane, who is into 21st, just ahead of Mann, is coming to complete a lap. Looks like he's happy with it too, so he'll cross the line. Let's see if this is any quicker. And it is, actually by a full second. That will get him into 19th.
It will indeed. Bernardi able to go faster there to bump his way up to 10th. Looks like Ryan Walker abandoned his lap. I think the next car up looks like Nicholas Anderson back in 23rd, followed by Neil Smet. So that's a train that we've been kind of keeping our eye on and off during the course of this qualifying.
Should count as long as they keep them on the pavement. So your final flyer, if it came before the checkered flag, is allowed to be counted as Anderson comes through that last chicane. And yeah, this is going to be close because it's within the range that he's looking for as it's down to the line. I think it's going to be an improvement. Oh, but he had an off track, so it won't count. He only had one timed lap, 26.6 for Smet. That'll get him into 20th place, and Lukal's up next.
Is indeed, once again, running in that clean air. Now, the give and take on that is that he will be faster through the corners because he doesn't have to worry about any aero wash, but he won't have the benefit of the draft here coming down this long straight mixed in with 130R in the middle of it. Comes down into the Casio triangle, getting ready to get onto the binders. Lukal currently 5th, hoping to improve.
He's chasing the man that'll be coming in behind him, Dancy, who is in 3rd, the row ahead, as Lukal crosses. It's a 24.2, and that will actually get him ahead of Dancy. Can Josh respond in the number 20? No, he can't.
Yeah, that lap looked like it didn't count for Dancy, so that's a bit of a heartbreak there for him. Here comes Josh Brain to the line. Brain is unable to improve, although Christopher Crook behind him was able to bump his way up into 8th place.
Wow, big jump for Crook. And Hop is going to be the next one, I believe, our last one. So he cycles on around. It's going to be close. Was he actually across before the time ran out? He could just be practicing from here, as they are allowed to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that timing is correct or not for him, but he's just going out and doing that nonetheless. One thing we did not mention that is important to mention during the course of this race, Joe, is remember these drivers are not going to take tires. The way these cars are set up and the way the sim mimics them is it really, you don't have the air hoses. It's more of a manual tire change, and you add about 30 to 40 seconds onto your pit stop. So tire management could be a little bit key, but with track temperatures at only 79 degrees, I don't think it's going to be that crucial.
So Hop is coming in. Yeah, I don't think he was really on a lap there. And 24 drivers here today for the opening rounds of Season 25 for the Absolute Beginners League Formula Neagle. And the clock ticks to 0, which means our grid is officially set now. And it is David Burns who took the pole very narrowly. Yonka even typed in the chat that he was a little sad he missed it. He will start 2nd, Lukal in 3rd with Dancy P4. Then it's Josh Brain in 5th, followed by Potacek in the 6th spot. Vincent Brame will be in 7th. Christopher Crook getting up to 8th at the last moment ahead of Rob Hop in 9th, and Thomas Kick rounding out your top 10.
Filippo Aliso Bernardi is going to be in 11th, followed by GSRC's own Ryan Walker, with Ludwig Sauer, Steve Durr, and Alexander Wolfert rounding out your top 15. Christian Groulet will line up in 16th, followed by Titus DeYoung and Benjamin Harris behind him in row 9. And then row 10, and rounding out your top 20, it's Klaus Loden and Neil Smet.
Joe Turner McMullen will be 21st, followed by Mackenzie Mann in 22nd. Nick Anderson, 23rd. Last on the grid was Michael Bell in the end. But everybody managed to get a time in and a standing start, don't forget, as we wait for them to get going here soon. We've got a few moments left here in the gridding process, and we've only got Thomas Kick that we're waiting on before they will start to get the lights and the engines will start to rev. So David Burns, can he run away with it? Can he just manage to whomp everybody without his rival from last season here to compete in the first round? That'll be the questions they're all looking to answer here in Japan in this very nicely sunlit morning here in the land of the rising sun. Looks like we've got all of them out there. So the engines now start to rev as the lights come up and the green flag is out. Burns looks decent off the line compared to Jonk, and Lukel already going to try and pull a slipstream off of Just. He's going to try and poke his nose to the inside, but just not enough speed to make anything work down into the first couple corners.
Behind them, Dancy and Brain looking a little side by side. Looks like most of the field able to get through that first corner relatively okay. Now coming up through the S's, everybody's got to be very, very tricky here. Tires are a little bit cold. Not everything is up to temperature, so you've got to be very, very quick, but everything looking relatively orderly.
Yeah, pretty much all single file already through the S's up to Dunlop curve now. Burns leading Jonk, leading Lukel. And they come into one of the big danger zones for the first time, into the Degners now.
This is a very tricky corner. You can't really get a lot of passing done in there, and especially not into Degner 2. But Jonk gets a really good run out of that second Degner on Burns. He's going to poke his nose out. I think he thought about trying to scare David off the line, but he's not going to go for it. They say single file into the hairpin.
Ready getting it woed up into that slow left-hander. Thankfully, I'm not seeing any incidents left, so great to see everybody trying to play patient here at the first round of the season, not wanting to throw it away early. So the question becomes now, we haven't seen Just try and make any sort of attack yet. Does he try to play the long game and fuel save, as we've seen them do so many times before, or does he want to lead?
Well, it's going to be a mixed bag, Joe, because of 130R permeating this long straightaway. You may have to back off a little bit as you do it, but we'll have to see what Just does. He certainly looks like he's got to run if he wants it.
He wants the lead. He's already going to go ahead of Burns. Or is this a case of Burns not wanting to lead himself? Maybe he lifted and let him through once he had a run. And here comes Lukel with a great exit defensive move from Just into the first corner. Or into the Casio triangle, rather, and they all get single file despite a few drivers trying to see if they can get an overlap.
Yeah, going for it a little bit there, but nobody really able to pull it off. Not surprised that Burns lifted there. That's kind of what we see a lot out of these leaders. There's not a lot of mega attack, but ooh, here comes David Burns. He's going to poke his nose to the inside going into the first corner. Let's see if Just puts up any sort of defense. No, it does not, and now Lukel may want to have a little bit of a run, but Lukel backs off.
I'm a bit surprised to see both of them trading back and forth this early. Would have thought that each would have been happy to let the other lead and save some slipstream. So as they now head into the S's, let's not forget behind them, they've also got Lukel, Dancy, Brain, Hodacek. I mean, this train goes pretty much back to crook before you have a decent gap to the next car. They all could be sitting behind, just watching the leaders swap back and forth and lifting and coasting into the corners.
Very well could. We have seen time and time again in this series, Joe, that the overcut tends to be the way to go when it comes to pit stops. You want to wait to come in until the absolute last minute. And that's, I think, what a lot of these drivers are going to be thinking about. Once again, Jonk looking a little bit stronger there on the exit of Degner 2. He's got to run if he wants it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he backs off going into the hairpin and just waits.
Yeah, no attack from anybody there, although a little poke to the inside as Lukel was much tighter the apex than Jonk was. Yeah, our first-time viewers might be confused to see absolute beginners, and it's a bit of a misnomer. These are these are not rookie drivers. These are very experienced guys up at the front. The name refers to essentially the nature of the series, trying to encourage newcomers come in, everybody trying to teach them and find them speed. But these are the teachers usually that we have been watching since the drop of the green.
Indeed, Joe. These are some of the best drivers in the world when it comes to these Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars. They really know what they're doing. Watching here, that's Jonk making a move to the inside of Burns. This flip-flopping back and forth that we often see. Ooh, a little bit of an awkward line there for Just going in. And now Lucal, I think, may want a little bit of a bite at the apple. He's going to try to get a crossover between him and Burns. It looks like they're going to back off, though. Once again, go single file into the Casio triangle.
None of those behind made any sort of an attempt. They all just sat in line. It is definitely a break now. Crook about 1.2 seconds ahead of the next train, which has, looks about 4 cars. It's Hop, Kick, Sauer, Walker. Make that 5. I see Bernardi also in that group, and you can see them in the back of the shot is up at the front. Looks like Jonk. Oh, and now Lucal overtaking Burns.
Yeah, oh, very sideways there for Just Young coming through the first corner. That may give Lucal a chance to make the move into first, and indeed it is. Unfortunately for Just Young, that's going to put him side by side until he slots into third. Very heads-up driving there for all of our top 4.
Okay, then, so it's going to be Eric the Blue instead who leads the way ahead of the champion David Burns, the season 23 champion David Burns. And Jonk now down into third position. Dancy getting close to that 13 car. Does he fancy doing much the same of what we just saw from Lucal?
Well, we'll have to see what he's thinking about. Dancy, not normally one we see running up with this top group all of the time, but he may be a little bit of a wild card as this group really starts to stay single file. Nobody making a move into the hairpin. I think the main overtaking zone is really going to be that run out of Spoon.
Oh, we had a little contact between Hop and I think it was Sauer. Yeah. Can we get a replay on the 23 and 14 into the hairpin? It's got a little testy there on the defense into that corner.
Jumping back here to that GSRC replay. Let's take a look here. So this is coming down through Degner. Through Degner 2. Now that's Hop in the blue car, and that's going to be Sauer behind him. Yeah, Hop gets a little bit too far wide going on the exit of Degner 2. Sauer gets ahead. Just a little bit of a hey, how are you?
Yeah, Hop maybe wasn't expecting the attack from behind from Sauer, and wound up having to back out of it, unfortunately. We come back live. We still have Burns. Well, no, it's not still have Burns. Burns leads ahead of Lucal, having overtaken him while we were looking at that replay. But Jonk still remains in third.
Yeah, they're continuing to play that little game of leapfrog there that we see so many times on these tracks with a long straightaway. Lucal looks like he's got a little bit of a run here if he wants to go for it, and indeed he's going to poke his nose to the inside. Does David let him go, or does he try to fight it? No, David's going to let him go, and he'll slot back into second.
If they're to leapfrog to get away from everybody, it's failing miserably because they've actually been caught by the second group. Thomas Kick is within slipstream of those ahead. Oh, and we had an incident as we look from the chopper view, and once again it was Rob Hop. Ooh, and once again it was contact.
Ooh, that's not good for Hop there. But watching these choppers play out here, yeah, there you can see that gap starting to come down with the leaders. Just Kick trying to gain it in here. Should be draft effectiveness at about a second, so he should be getting a good pull if he's able to keep it close. Oh, but Lucal is off through the first Degner.
And he's going to barely keep it on in the second Degner, as that costs him 3 positions, maybe 4. Brain's thinking about it, but then Brain backs out of it as we take a look at the replay. This is on board.
Yeah, here you see him coming down into the braking zone, just carried a little bit too much speed through that first Degner. It's very, very easy to do. It's a brush braking corner, not a lot of heavy input on the brakes, and that just caught him out. He's very lucky here to have stayed in the top 4 and still be in touch with the leaders of Burns, Jonk, and Dancy.
So as they now fly through Spoon Curve, Kick is very much on the back of Crook. But it looks like Sauer, who was involved in that second incident with Hop as well, has dropped a little bit. He's got about a second to make up if he wants to make it a 10-car train for the lead.
Yeah, he's going to have to try it here and see what he can do. A little bit more to gain back in, but we continue to ride on board. This is Sauer trying to pull him in.
Not missing anything in front of them, although a few drivers have popped out of line. Not really much in the way of attacks between them. Down into the Casio triangle, Sauer still at about, oh, no, he gained. He gained a lot, 0.7 of a second now.
Yeah, really gained back in, and I think that is as part of the advantage of not having to check up. Oh, but Sauer, that's Lucal. Lucal off again.
What happened there? Oh, and he's taken a tow. This was a very strange incident. I wonder if he had a hardware or software failure. Yeah, the car is just going to spear off, and then he exits. I'm guessing a monitor or something maybe had gone black for him. Well, we lose one more after we gained a couple for this front group, and this causes a bit of a break. This is between Potacek and Dancy.
Yeah, there's about a 1.5 second gap now up the way between Wojciech Potacek and Joshua Dancy, and that's going to be a little bit hard for Wojciech to try to claw back in, but he's got to be watching his tailpipe as well, because that's Josh Brain and Vincent Bream and Christopher Crook. Big lock up there for Wojciech, and he goes around.
Oh no. So Wojciech Potacek finds himself in the barriers, and once again it is the Degner curves that seem to have caused the issue. Oh, he touched the grass on the way in.
Yeah, just tried to carry a little bit too much momentum, ran it out wide. That sends him around, and very heads up there for Brain to be able to back off of it. We heard everybody on the radio sort of talking through that incident. We're going to jump back up here to Josh Brain, though.
Certainly using his noggin. So Brain heads out of Spoon Curve with an even bigger gap to make up, 2.3 seconds. I think that's draft broken officially. So either Josh has to have better pace than the top three, or fourth is his most likely highest finishing position.
Yeah, indeed, but Brain's going to have his handful. That's Vincent Bream coming up behind him through 130R. Not going to make the move there. You see a little bit of the back off. Both cars getting a hair sideways. They've got to watch it too. Christopher Crook, he's got a good run, and indeed he's going to jump to the inside of Vincent Bream as they go down into the Casio triangle, move Crook up into the top 5.
Chris has been doing phenomenal today. He's qualified in 10th. He's been picking them off one by one, as well as running down faster groups of cars, but he's going to be under attack. You can see him defending all the way to the inside as Brain, to his outside, is going to try and pull a blinder here. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that this time into turn 1. No, he backs out.
No, he's not, and you saw Kick and Sauer having a little bit of action there in the back as well. That's Ryan Walker holding up the back of the train, but this is on board with Kick. Sauer right in front of him. You see just how close these cars are running. A little bit of a wide line there. Now that's going to really allow for Ryan Walker to close up behind the car we're riding on board with.
Definitely looks like Kick wants to snare a few more positions, but Sauer ahead of him, not going to allow him for the time being. We're not even halfway through this race. We've only completed about 13 minutes. So pit window might just about be opening, but as you mentioned earlier, not expecting many takers for the undercut.
Yeah, most drivers really do prefer to try and go as long as they can. Saw a little bit of brake dust there. I think that was Christopher Crook locking up. Ooh, aggressive move to the inside for Thomas Kick, trying to find something, but he's not going to be able to do anything here. Staying single file through the hairpin. Wide run out of the corner for Christopher Crook.
Yeah, but he holds it. Brain isn't able to get as good of a launch. These are weird cars when it comes to those corner exits. What line is the quickest? He pokes his nose with the aggressive Air Force-inspired paint scheme on that number 25. Crook is not going to fall victim to being scared off the line by that one, although he was a little wide there coming through the second part of Spoon.
He was indeed. That really sets up a good run here for Vincent Brame. You see him coming up behind. Perfectly judged slipstream move. Now that's going to be the outside of 130R if he's not able to get by. And behind him, it looks like Kick and Sauer thought about going side by side as well. There's Crook coming back into line. That's position for Brame, but I don't think this is over for Crook quite yet.
They come down. Whoa, and way wide for someone there in the back in the black car. Didn't see who that was. And they come down into the Casio triangle, finally single file. Now, Yonk in that same moment had overtaken Burns, slipstreaming past up to 130R. Burns is following him with Dancy in tow, but it seems David doesn't have much interest in trying to retake it here on the front stretch.
No, he does not. Ooh, but that's Dancy trying to take a poke there. I think everybody's being very cautious here, just making sure nobody gets too aggressive. We still have 25 minutes left to go in this race.
Yep, we hop on board with Josh now, watching the two ahead of him. I feel like Josh very much in the catbird seat. He was towards the back of that group, wasn't really making aggressive attacks, probably saving some fuel, and now, again, he's with the leaders. All he has to do is hold on to keep himself in contention for the win.
Exactly, and the fact that he's not making these aggressive moves, the fact that he is just sitting back there and content, that to me says he may be saving a hair bit more fuel than Yonk and Burns, even though the two of them are some of the best fuel savers in the game when it comes to racing these Skip Barbers.
Down into the hairpin once again. Boy, you know, I said something about Josh Brain having to close the gap as we take a look at the battle for fifth. Look at the gap he's caused. Now, he's lost touch with Dancy, so the front group is definitely faster than him, but look how much slower the group behind is.
Yeah, they're just not able to catch up whatsoever here, but we're going to follow this battle. This is Bream, Crook, Sauer, Kick, and Walker. We've seen them scrapping this entire time. Good run there for Christopher Crook. Looks like coming through the second part of Spoon. Wide exit there for Bream. I think that'll cost him, but remember what happened last time. Crook was able to get the move done going into 130R, and Bream was able to fight back going into the final chicanes.
Don't need to go to it, but another scheduled swap between Burns and Yonk at the front of the fields as Walker Crook sizes things up rather. Ooh, way wide behind him. Kick. I think he was the one we saw before in the black machine that went very wide. He's going to try and go side by side with Lucal into the Casio triangle. Can't get the pass done, but they also don't lose the slipstream of Crook. Crook, however, can't seem to get the speed on the exit as Brain gaps himself to about 8/10.
No, it is not, and here comes the move, I think, indeed. Kick's going to dive to the outside of Ludwig Sauer, trying to see if he can get this to work. He's going to have to make it stick around the outside. Oh, is he going to run wide? Barely keeps it on the tarmac.
Let's stay here, but an update. Wilford and Harris had contact into the Casio triangle. Both cars able to continue, though Wilford looks like he's taking his pit stop early to get a spare car. So the second group seems to be where the fun is at now, but they have changed complexion completely.
Yeah, they really have, just continuing to swap back and forth and back and forth. I do think here, I like what Ryan Walker is doing. It's very similar to what Josh Dancy's doing up front in the battle for P1. Walker's just kind of holding back here, being very conservative and letting the race come to him.
Walker up 3 spots from where he began as we hop on board with the Scott. And ahead of him, that's Kick. Once again, just kind of showing himself in the mirrors of Sauer, but can't get the move done, getting awful close to the gearbox of Kick. Walker doesn't get the greatest of exits because of it.
No, he does not. They're going to be a little bit separated out here coming into Spoon. I'm going to be keeping my eye here on Christopher Crook. You can see him. He's that third car up ahead. Very, very cautious. He's been able to get some good runs out of Spoon, but not really able to capitalize. Bream able to fight back pretty well.
Indeed. But this this is where the drivers will start to see opportunities depending on how ambitious they feel. Crook is looking to the inside as the lead once again changes around. Yonk, Burns, Dancy, now your order. Crook did overtake Bream behind them, coming up to 130R. So who peels off when? Well, it's going to be Burns peeling off first amongst this group. Now that surprises me.
Surprises me as well, Joe. Coming in here about halfway through the race, we normally see Burns trying to stretch this out a little bit more, maybe just a little bit worried, wants to dive back in. Now, the one thing that will come into play with this is we're side by side for that battle up front. That is... excuse me, that is Bram getting around Sauer, or getting around Crook.
So once again, swapping around. Only other driver that's taken on this lap is Grula, but everybody else is staying out the halfway mark. Now, is that going to be significant for Burns? He must feel like he is quicker on his own. Bad news for him as we continue to watch this fight between Bram and Crook, as he comes out just behind some traffic in the form of Anderson.
Well, and that's what I was going to say before this battle developed. Now, depending on when he comes out on track, he could get some good advantage. Remember how good that car looked in qualifying in clean air, Joe. If he can clear him quick here, Ken Burns, that should be able to maybe help him get forward.
Yeah, no slipstream compared to those around him. So he clearly is pretty fast as we keep watching. Oh, and way wide there for Crook. Just getting him into the grass, but I don't think that'll cost him too much. Burns is taking his time getting by Anderson in the midst of this. I've been watching him at the same time as we've been keeping the cameras on here. And there you see him on screen, the 125 still stuck behind Anderson. This has got to be slowing him up.
I would have to think so. Anderson's best time out is a 27.5. Compare that to the best time. Whoa, there's an aggressive line there for Burns, trying to go for a little bit of an over-under. I don't know if there's just enough speed to get it done, though. But yeah, he's about a second off the normal times that we're seeing the leaders run. So this is massively slowing down David Third Degree Burns.
So are the top two watching this? Are they paying attention and seeing him being slowed up? They're coming up to the pit entry right now, and still Burns can't get by. This is a shocker for him, but neither are responding. So it looks like Yonk and Dancy want to continue to stay out while Burns keeps getting held up, and he's finally going to get by using the long slipstream up to 130R.
Well, that'll help him out, but up ahead of him, Christopher Crook, Ludwig Sauer, looks like Thomas Kick and Ryan Walker all diving into the pits. So that big 5-car battle we were following for P4, most of them deciding to come in.
Don't think he lost enough time that they will catch him. We'll watch and find out. Burns with a 14-second stop. Crook still stationary as we look at Yonk and Dancy. Didn't come in. They continue on. Yeah, Burns easily passed. First one out is Walker, who saved his fuel.
Good run there for Ryan. That'll put him out ahead of that battle. He's got some clean track in front of him. Behind him, the order definitely shuffled up there. Sauer and Crook coming out pretty much as they were running, and losing a little bit of time was Thomas Kick.
Okay, now can he shake them is the question. He's got about half a second over Sauer, so that could be enough that maybe in some of the twistier bits he could pull away and keep Sauer and Crook from holding onto his tail till the end. So we still have yet to see the top 8 pit along with Nick Anderson. We look at our top 2. They're coming around Spoon now with a 3.8 second lead over Josh Brain. I want to say that stayed steady?
I think it pretty much has, Joe. Brain's been able to do a good job of just holding on to that the best he can.
should maybe take a lap comparison from Brain to either Dancy or Yonk and see if he has been matching their times. Again, he's a little far back to try and do anything with it, but it's an interesting note to make if he is running similar pace to these top two. And now they come in. Pit window might be closing. We're seeing Dancy and Brain finally responding. Where is Burns? He's upcoming towards the 130R right now. Brain is in. Brain is in. So is Durr. Yes, this is the end of the pit window.
All right, so we're going to have to keep an eye on absolutely everybody here. Now, remember, Burns had that 14-second stop. As you can see, here comes Yonk and Dancy, both at rest in the box. They are stationary. Burns coming into the Casio triangle.
Yonk still has about 3 seconds left to go in his pit stop. 12, 13, 14, 15. Little bit longer. Burns has the speed, he's got the momentum, but Dancy and Yonk are coming out side by side ahead of him and possibly with the draft broken. But if they battle like this, they're going to lose all that time quickly. Dancy loses out around the outside as Yonk is going to be your leader after the pit stops.
Oh, Dancy looking like he's trying to fight back, though. There you can see the gap, that undercut not playing out for David Burns. The gap now at about 2.4 seconds as Burns tries to push his way forward to get back up to this battle between Yonk and Dancy.
That 1.5 laps, or 1 lap, but he was behind Anderson there. Burns has unfortunately cost himself nearly 2 seconds to our top two. So that strategy that he was trying to play did not work like he hoped. I honestly don't understand it unless he thought that he was going to come out in the clear.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. It may be something we have to ask David in the post-race because it just seems very out of character for the driver of the 125.
It's not over, though. 14 minutes left to go. He could still try and run them down. And, well, he's got Josh Brain behind him. Now, here's an interesting one. Brain will want to work together with Burns and vice versa. If those two can leapfrog up to the front, that will allow Brain a chance at the victory and Burns a chance to get back into the hunt for victory.
It will indeed. We'll have to see if they decide to play that little game of leapfrog or not. There is Burns, though. There is Brain on your screen. Burns definitely looks like he's trying to keep that gap relatively tight. It's about 2.3 seconds now. He probably will lose out a little bit, not having the slipstream ahead of him going down this long straightaway. But if anybody can make this gap back up, it's going to be David Third Degree Burns.
Went between them, and Brain was a little bit slower in a straight line compared to Burns, but he gained a bit of it as battle for the lead with Dancy and Yonk. Looks like he didn't look on him this time into the Casio triangle, but he's got to run here. Is this going to be where we see Josh try and overtake Just? No, he sits back in line.
He's going to hold it back there, and Josh had a 14.2 second pit stop, so he may have slightly underfueled the car and just needs to try to save a little bit of fuel. But most importantly, David Burns starting to bring that gap down. It's now 9.5 seconds, so Burns definitely pushing here to try to gain in on our leaders.
What has that done with the groups behind them, though? Well, Ryan Walker is well out of range of Brain, but he's also got Sauer and Crook behind him, so it looks like he wasn't able to shake those two. So there's a battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th. And then you have a break to the next one, which involves 4 cars, Brain, Durr, Kick, and Bernardi fighting for 8th.
Yeah, Bernardi was able to gain a little bit of time in that pit stop sequence and come back up to the back of this, but we follow this battle right now for P5. This is Sauer and Crook trying to chase down Ryan Walker. They've been a little bit scrappy, but I haven't seen too many overtakes try to get done. Crook trying to carry some good speed out of Degner too.
Everybody using as much of the track as they can. Remember, they do have an incident limit, 17, and they'll have a drive-through, which will certainly cost any of our hopefuls for the win their victory. And at 25, it'll actually be fully disqualified. They come around towards Spoon Curve. Burns gained a little bit last time, but it's... Oh, no, he is gaining still. It's down to 1.5 now to our top two.
Yeah, definitely starting to gain, and if these two squabble a little bit more, he'll be able to gain in more and more and more, especially if one of them goes on an offline here, 130 through 130R. Keeping our eyes focused on Zauer as he tries to chase down Ryan Walker, though. I think he's maybe a little bit far back. He may get something going into the Casio Triangle, but not looking like it.
Yeah, just behind them, the battle for P8 gets close between Brame and Durr as Steve overtakes Vincent. And it looks like Vincent wants it back, but then comes back to the racing line. Instead, he's going to be under attack by Kick. Kick, ooh, cutting a lot of that inside curve. He better hope that he didn't get a slowdown penalty from that.
Yeah, you've got to be careful. That is one of the areas here at Suzuka that you can get hit for it. Kick looking like he had a bad line there coming out of the last curve. And here comes Bernardi down to the inside.
So instead of Kick being able to overtake, he's now on defense. 85 manages to get it wheel to wheel into the first corner, but he's kind of boxed in. That was Brame in front of him. He almost makes contact. It looks like he did make contact. Brame trying to hold on to the car. All of them sliding around the corner. Brame moves to the back of the trio.
Wow, that's some amazing car control there from Vincent Brame to be able to keep that thing gathered up and pointed the right way. Let's go back and check out the replay of this. Watch his hands as he gets made contact in the back there. There it is. Boom, just catches it just right. That curb actually coming to his aid.
Fast hands there for Brame, but not fast enough to keep him in ninth. In fact, Durr has broken away because of that. Will Bernardi be able to use his newfound position to chase him down? There is the bright blue and black of the number 66. You can see the gap at about 1 second.
Yeah, so he just wants to get a little bit more ahead of him to try to pull out some of that effective draft range. Now, he's got about 2 seconds up the road to Christopher Crook, so he's not going to get a good tow. He's just got to do this on his own 2 feet.
Back up front. It's down to 1 second. David Burns, 0.8 of a second now. I think he's going to start feeling the effects of that draft. So as hard as they tried, they are not able to get away from David Burns. Now before, I have to imagine he was probably fuel saving a little bit, David Burns. Now it's the end of the race. Does he have more pace in him? Could he maybe get by and actually leave them behind?
Well, he might. There you see the 2 drivers ahead of him, Dancy and Young, taking opposite lines. That's going to allow for Burns to close right up the gearbox. Bad entry into there to the Casio Triangle for Youst Young. He's there. This is a 3-way fight.
Okay then, so David Burns now sizes him up. Could it be a 2-for-1 now that he's reached the back of them? Dancy stays to the outside, Young to the inside. We're going to go 3 wide as we come down to the first corner. Not usually advisable to stay that way into turns 1 and 2. And Youst Young knows it, so he backs out, allowing David Burns in one fell swoop to take the lead.
That's one of the more impressive drives I've seen out of David Burns, and we're not even done yet. Burns, obviously one of the better drivers here in the series. Just absolute sheer force of will to get himself back up into that leading position. But rest assured, Youst Young still has something to say about it.
Wow, Bernardi, we wondered if he could try and catch Durr. The answer is not only yes, he passed Durr, and Filippo now into P8.
Yeah, so some good battles there. This 3-way battle for the lead, though, continuing to shape out, continuing to play out. Nobody really knows how this is going to finish. A little bit of brake smoke there. I think that may have been from your leader, Burns.
A little bit of a look coming up the kink into the hairpin, and now defensive there from Youst Young as Dancy hovers behind him. They got to watch out how much they fight back and forth. If Burns can shake them, that's lights out.
Yeah, it is indeed. Young here trying to close in, but I would say he's got to be very concerned. We've seen just how much speed Burns has coming through the exit of Spoon. Oh, but he gets sideways on the entry.
This is not boding well for the pair of them. So as they come off of Spoon, Yonk looking okay. Josh, not so much. They start to pick up pace. Yonk stays behind, does not attack. Is he waiting for the last lap potentially?
He could be. He could also be waiting to try to make a move here, maybe going down into Casio, but he's forced to back off and go defensive. Dancy fancies his shot. That's going to be him trying to look to the outside. He backs off, though, recognizes it's not a move, but that move there and forcing Yonk to go a little bit defensive may cost him a tenth or so.
So 2 minutes and 20 some odd seconds. I think it's going to be, 3 laps left to go here as they cross the line. Now, the last few laps, is Brain been quicker? I think Brain may have been quicker and is closing in, but he's got a long road to hoe to try and get up and involved in this. I think we're going to see a pass between Brain and Kick. That is for 10th position. They're still in their fight for that 8th spot.
Yeah, and Brain very lucky there. Bernardi had a little bit of a sideways, Durr had a little bit of a sideways run there, able to gather it back up under him. But here in the front, Dancy now looking like he's starting to challenge Yonk for that P2.
Have they settled for best of the rest? Can't imagine either of them would want that to be the case. It's the first race of the season. This will set the tone. This will put a marker down in the sand on who will be the rivals for the championship. And they come into the hairpin. Nobody showing anything this time. All of them squaring off the exit, trying to get as much of a launch to hold on to third degree.
Indeed, they are. Looks like a little bit of a move there for Dancy to pull up behind Used Yonk, but we're not going to know until we get through Spoon. Now, remember, as you said, Joe, it's all about trying to get this timing right. I think if my numbers are correct here, we should be 2 to go at the line, and Yonk's going to know that, so he may want to just stick behind and wait for the best run.
Riding on board with the third place driver, Dancy gives us the view of how powerful the slipstream is. As all of them riding in one another's tire tracks. He wants a shot at it, though. No, he's not. Big lift.
A big lift indeed. Let's see if he can keep the power down. A little bit of sideways there from Used Yonk. Here comes Dancy trying to force an error maybe. Not really close enough to make the full-on overtake. Very close to the edge there was Joshua Dancy. Fighting back through the Casio triangle. Go over the curbs. Little bit of a run wide there again for the number 20. But he's going to keep it nice and close behind. He could have a look. And indeed, they're going to cross over. This is going to be 2 to go at the line.
Oh, Vincent Brame had something go wrong. I think he lost it in 130R, and it was a magnificent save from Durr. If we want to get a replay of this.
All right, so this is Bream right here. We ride on board. Durr ahead of him. He's going to poke his nose to the inside is Vincent. Now he's going to have a clear run here up ahead. Love this camera angle coming down into this tricky corner. They both go for the sweep. Both of them doing a little bit of synchronized drifting. Bream able to catch the car. Has to come to a stop. That's going to bring him back. As you said, great moves from Durr there to stay out of the vac of Vincent Bream.
And also save his own car, too, because he could have wound up in the same situation. So Brame falls to 13th. Durr will inherit 9th, but has lost touch with Bernardi, and he's going to be fighting with Kick. As we look at our top 3, now 5 seconds, so they are starting to pull away from Brame at this stage. Burns, Yonk, Dancy, that's your order. They're going to get the white flag next time by. Who goes when and where?
Well, I think we could certainly be in for a little bit of a 3-wide scuffle going down into the Casio triangle. Yonk looking like he's got a little bit of a push here if he wants it. Definitely a better run out of the hairpin. All drivers lining it up here through Spoon. A little bit of a wide run mid-corner there for Dancy, but he's going to keep pushing.
Down, coming towards 130R. Will we see maybe Dancy try it? He's the third in line. He has motivation to try and move up the order. No, big lift from him as well. No move from Jonk. They want to be, I think, where they are. A lot of curve on the inside of 130R for Jonk. That causes him a small bobble, but he doesn't lose too much time.
Yeah, and indeed, you're right there, Joe. Everybody keeping it safe. Now, Burns has got to know what's coming on this next lap. Oh, that's Dancy running very, very wide there. That's going to cost him a little bit, but not enough for him to lose touch.
I think it absolutely is on the mind of David Burns right now, knowing what's coming. Back in the battle for fifth, while Ludwig and Christopher have been able to get by Ryan Walker, so he's going to have to do that work all over again, which he's going to try around the outside coming into turn one. 3 wide, actually, because here comes Crook down the inside. No, he's only going to be able to get one. Sauer's still in front of him, and the job is not done as Walker's on the outside of Crook. That switches to the inside into the S's. Now he's got him as he tries to shut the door. Yes, there it is.
Almost contact there between Walker and Crook. Very heads up from both drivers to keep those cars on the black stuff. Crook, I think, is a little bit angry here. He wants that position back. Going to try to fight through him here through Dunlop. He's not really going to have a good overtaking move, though, until he gets the hairpin.
It's certainly very hard to try and make it stick from here until you get to the braking zones of the long slipstreams and through the hairpin. This is it. We're starting to get to the spots where we're expecting drivers to have a go. You said it before. We're expecting them to try and make a move down to the Casio triangle, but they've got to time it perfect. They've got to get it right, and they've got to navigate through 130R in the process. This is Spoon leading up to 130R. As they come off the corner, trying to square it off, Dancy, unfortunately, just goes wide instead, and it's looking good for Jonk. He's going to have the draft as they start to pick up speed. Coming up the backstretch is Burns, a sitting duck. He plants it in the very middle of the track. Now he comes back to the racing line, and Jonk's going to have the inside as they come up to 130R. Could we see the over-under? No. He's going to be forced to the outside, off into the runoff. Burns is still in it potentially, but covering off the inside. Jonk now has the desired line and the track position. All of them sending it in deep, and Jonk is going to be able to get ahead as he accelerates off the final corner. What a move from Jost Jonk. He didn't get the pole, but he won the war today as victory goes to the 13 car in Japan.
That is exactly how you set up a move. An amazing run there for Jost Jonk to hold that off. We're going to jump back to the battle we were following. This is Sauer, Walker, and Crook. Does anybody have any little bit of draft? Walker's going to try to go for it at the line, but he's going to be too little too late.
Behind them, Bernardi and Durr split by, my goodness, what looks like less than a tenth. Potacek coming across with a 12th place, what could have been for him, as we now glance at Hop.
This is Hop and Loden. Loden trailing behind. Are we going to see a similar move that we saw Jost Jonk throw here? Oh, it looks like he had to back off a little bit there. I don't know if it's going to make it work. Off into the grass!
Oh, a mistake right at the end for the 65. And I think that's the last of our battles amongst the drivers. We're going to let the remainder of them come to the finish line. As we take a quick break, we'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Welcome back to Suzuka International Racing Course. We just watched round one of the Absolute Beginners Formula Neagle League, and that was Just Jonk taking the victory over David Burns by a little less than 0.2 of a second. Dancy right behind them in third. Couldn't do anything like Junk did there on the last lap. Brain eventually had to settle for fourth as he lost touch with the leaders, but was able to gap himself from those behind. Sauer won that fight to crack into the top 5, ahead of Ryan Walker climbing from 12th place. Sauer actually went from 13th himself. Crook was 7th as Bernardi finished P8. Then it was Durr in 9th and Kick in 10th.
In 11th, it was Alexander Wilford, followed by Wojciech Podacek, who was running up front near the beginning of the race, but some incidents forced him back down the order. Same with Vincent Bream in 13th. Christian Grule was 14th, followed by Benjamin Harrison 15th, with Titus de Jong 16th, Rob Hopp behind him, Klaus Loden and Mackenzie Mann 18th and 19th, and Nicholas Anderson rounding out your top 20.
McMullen and Smet were the last two to finish on the lead lap. Bell, 9 laps down, was DNF, and so was Lucal, sadly. But we're with our second place finisher, David Burns. David, we saw you come in and pit early. I assume that was a ploy to try and get away from the drivers, but when you came out behind the traffic, did you kind of feel like the jig was up?
Yeah, it was a gamble because I was looking at the lap times when it was just Just, myself, and Joshua, and I thought, I think I can be faster on my own. Hadn't counted for the fact I got stuck behind 2 back markers, but that's racing. But I managed to catch them in the end. So,
yeah, you got up to there, but then you found yourself in the lead once again. Did you feel like you could fend them off, or did you know that the slipstream was going to make that near on impossible?
Well, you want to know something? I thought I could catch them and then stay behind them, but catching them into, I think it was lap 13 or 14, I realized I had enough speed to go to the front, and I thought, well, being in third and trying to win from third is really tricky, so I thought my best chance was to go in front. So I actually made that pass not expecting to get into the lead, so I was quite surprised, but the minute I got there, I thought, you're just going to win 30R, and he did. So it was quite a good strategy for him. It worked.
Wow. So obviously everybody kind of playing 3D chess out there today. Still first round, you came in second, so that's handy points, and you missed out last season. Can you step to the top step of the championship this time through?
I think I'm due one, haven't I? I'll certainly give it a good try, and I do like my favorite tracks coming up next in Road Atlanta, so I'll hopefully get a good result there.
Yeah, a little less draft dependent there. Congratulations on a podium. Anybody you want to thank?
It's my fellow admins and everyone that races in the league. It's always fun.
Great stuff. That was David Burns, second place finisher. Looks like nobody else wants to talk to us today, so we're going to close it up and enjoy the holiday over here in the States. We hope you do as well, but a big thank you to the Absolute Beginners League for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, a thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out our Bandcamp if you want to see more of her work. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or check out our social media. The outlets are listed at the bottom of the screen. Also, don't forget about our merchandise store. It's simracingmerch.com/GSRC. The link is in the description below. And subscribe to our YouTube channel when you got the opportunity so you don't miss a moment, because in 2 weeks' time, as was mentioned, we're going to Road Atlanta. That'll be Sunday, June 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.